First time I've seen a shadow on a chemtrail.
Really weird. I've never seen that in my life.
It's in a perfect spot.
Numerous air quality studies, including from CARB, California Air Quality Resource Board, have named submicron-sized particulates as being particularly harmful for human respiration. Through all the discussions today, I have not heard any mention of this fallout, and has this been studied, and also the effects of a highly reactive metal like aluminum on toxifying soils and waters?
The question is, what would be the effects of these materials on human health if they came down into the stratosphere, in particular small particles and aluminum?
So the collaborators of mine working on the aerosol scheme are actually folks from Carnegie Mellon who focused on human health impacts. And while we haven't published it, that was the very first thing we did, was do the order of magnitude calculation in level pencil and paper, but with an expert on human health impacts about whether there could be an issue. And for aluminum or other particles, there are a lot of toxicological things that need to get looked at seriously. But if you're just thinking about the sheer number of particles and the human health impact of small particles, the answer is, well, we haven't published it. That was the first thing we looked at with some of the leading experts who do epidemiological research on human health impacts, and it's not even close to being an issue.
Clarify, so 10 megatons of aluminum dumped into the atmosphere would have no human health impact.
So let me be more careful here. We're to separate out the toxicological. So the alumina, we've only begun to research and published nothing. Alumina, we've only begun to research and published nothing.
Dane looked at him and he said, so you're telling me that spraying 10 to 20 megatons of aluminum, as you said, would have no human health effects? He took a deep breath and he swallowed and he said, let me be more careful here.
We haven't done anything serious on alumina, and so there could be something terrible that we'll find tomorrow we haven't looked at.
And that, for me, that was the whole main point of what is going to be coming out to the public. It's the damaging effects of aluminum that are being found around the world in massive amounts. Here's David Keith confronted on this very issue, and he looked, at that point like they just let the cat out of the bag.
Mm-hmm. We haven't done anything serious on alumina, and so there could be something terrible that we'll find tomorrow we haven't looked at.
This is sawtooth. Yeah. All of a sudden it just goes and stops.
And telling them that we have to lay a pattern up there to prevent sun energy from hitting Earth. And what they're doing in there, it's now pretty much determined. They're putting the aluminum, barium, and strontium. Now you take these chemicals and run them through a PubMed literature search in respect to human health. You will find more than 3,000 papers. Aluminum alone, aluminum Alzheimer's, right, mental, there's no question about it. Now, it so happens, when there were people who really paid attention, if there was due to some weather and air changes, wind patterns, suddenly this stuff that they're laying out there, it comes down in rain. If it falls on crops, it kills the crops. It's like they have big blisters on any one of the crops, vegetables or things like this. Organic crops, totally destroyed, can't even use them. And when it comes to an area, for example, there's like forests, after that, a few weeks after that, they're totally dead. They're toothpicks, and you can see it all on the internet.
Luft- und Raumfahrttechniker und habe Flugzeuge repariert und so weiter. Ich möchte euch jetzt mal ganz kurz erzählen, was ich gemacht habe. Ich habe auf dem militärischen Sonderflughafen Oberpfaffenhofen in Zusammenarbeit mit dem Deutschen Luft- und Raumfahrtzentrum ein Flugzeug mit einer Sprüheinrichtung ausgestattet, was an unserem Himmel giftige Substanzen versprüht. Als ich mit den Beweisen dafür, den Fotos und allem drum und dran, zu meiner grünen Abgeordneten im Bürgerbüro gegangen bin und gesagt habe, hier, so sieht's aus, ich stelle mich jedem Untersuchungsausschuss zur Verfügung, ist 3 Tage später mein Boss zu mir nach Hause gekommen und hat gesagt, ich muss dich entlassen, da werden von ganz oben große Räder gedreht, die ich nicht mehr halten kann. Ich kriege keinen Job mehr in der Luftfahrt.
Maybe 6.8 if you look at the darkest little portions in there. But this is black oak leaf. This is black oak acorns. This should be very acid, and I'm getting 10 times higher than expected. There's something really wrong here.
Amphibians, great decline. Used to sound like the Ozarks here with the tree frogs, and there's a small fraction of what there was here in only 4 years.
So there's something very wrong going on with the ecology around here. When you should be getting 5.5 and you're getting 6.8, there's something damned wrong.
There was mason jars, and they were brand new, sterilized, and that's what we catch the rain in.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was a HEPA filter that we tested the air with.
Okay, so you caught rain and then you basically filtered air.
Mm-hmm.
What did you find?
Aluminum and barium.
So you uncovered a lot of these hidden chemicals. Where's the connection with the chemtrails?
Well, the connection is, at first, when I saw these large quantities of aluminum, barium, strontium oxides and sulfates, I thought, well, this could be for an industrialized process, for something called shot peening or, bead blasting, things that you see in kind of the automotive industry. Except those were already accounted for. I already knew how much was used for those processes. It was a little type of different constituent. And the first thing I did, part of my job was to sample air, soil, and water. So that's what I did. I air sampled the soil, the air, and the water. And due to my profession, I know at which levels or limits of detection you need to check that at. And the amount of pollution that was in my area, and this is tests I did in Oklahoma, in Georgia, in Chicago where I'm now. But in taking those samples, I knew the background, because a lot of these things are naturally occurring in elemental, but not in this form and not in this quantity. So how did it get there?
So just to clarify, you see these huge storage containers of these chemicals. Then you do the test on the air and soil, and you see these same chemicals in the air and soil now. And that's pretty much been the main evidence I've seen people who are for chemtrails use, is saying, look at the soil, look at the water, look at all the chemicals in there. And now you're finally the person who's like, wait, I worked in the military, I saw a bunch of these chemicals there. That's crazy.
It is crazy. I used to think it was crazy, and everyone asks, why are there no pictures?
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to see you try to take a picture inside of a restricted air hangar, because you'll have an M16 in your back. Yeah. And the hardest part for people to realize is, where are the pilots? Like, there's people who have come forward, but these people are scared. You look at what's happened to whistleblowers, look at Snowden, look at Manning. People are scared. And I think because this topic is already labeled a conspiracy theory, I don't think the government necessarily views me as a threat yet. And I know it's not the most safe thing to do, but it's the right thing to do.
It's laughed at. It's made obscure.
We began to eventually test to see if in fact there was credence to what we were seeing from the first test in precipitation in spring of '06 that tested 7 parts per billion. We've since had tests that have escalated as high as 3,450 parts per billion. That's a 50,000% increase in aluminum.
I sent this water, see this right there, it says backyard rain gauge. Aluminum, 1,010 micrograms per liter of aluminum. And here's barium, 8 micrograms per liter of barium. And this is from the labs up in Redding, California. This is a certified government report. And here's what normal is. I asked them what would be normal. 0.5 would be normal.
For aluminum?
For aluminum. And the maximum allowed in drinking water, they said 50 micrograms per liter, and government action required at 1,000. Well, we're over 1,000.
It's not just activists anymore. Now the scientific community that has their head on straight is speaking out.
The question I have is why are they even chemtrailing? Why is the military and government chemtrailing us? I don't know. What's your understanding of it?
Well, I don't have anything that can solidify, but I do have my opinions, and that is the history of weather weaponry. I mean, you can take away people's monetary system, you can take away people's rights, but you take their food and you disable their ecosystem, that's the #1 way to handicap people, and they've done it since the 40s. It's not new. Also seeing how it started out to be a government program, and then noticing that it is a way for private corporations to profit off this, whether it's controlling agriculture, profiting. There's certain events, you lose money on if it rains, so knowing that you can kind of predict and control the weather, there's money there. I've also, heard that it could be tied to Agenda 21, but for me, it's not about why, it's just stopping it. It needs to be stopped.
Yeah, and it's called the crazy-ass conspiracy theory. The Chinese are doing it now, openly. They did it for the Olympics.
I mean, they've sprayed people. I'm sure you've heard the St. Louis story. They did biological testing. So if the government is capable of doing that, why is it so hard for people to believe? And I don't know if you've heard about David Keith, but he's actually a geoengineer, Canadian. He works at Harvard. He just wrote a new book on climate engineering, and inadvertently he's brought more awareness to this, because I feel they're getting ready to admit it, and they're trying to sell it to us. It's kind of like they sell vaccines to us, they sell fluoride to us. Fluoride is a mining waste product. Well, how can we make that good? Put it in your water. So I think that they're trying to now kind of admit it and act like they're going to start doing it, and they've already been doing it.
Okay, I wanted to say this real quick because it gets kind of tiring. Yesterday, the exact same weather, okay, 11 a.m. like it is now, 24 hours ago, there was 20, 30, 40, 50 chemical trails, geoengineering trails, whatever you want to call it, weather manipulation, modification trails. Today, exact same weather. We've had the exact same weather for 2 weeks straight. There's not one chemtrail in the whole sky 11 a.m., not one all morning, all day. And you've seen the ones where there's many, right? The very next day or the day before. And I mean, the whole sky, it was blue. There was no rain clouds, and the whole sky was full of white. And all that white has gone over the Grand Canyon and towards Phoenix, Arizona, blowing that way. A lot of it, some of it dissipated. A lot of it has been dropping in our water systems, Colorado River and so forth, in our ground, in groundwater, reaching the groundwater. But a lot of it reaches the big cities. They spray outside many big cities, and then it floats over, and the big city people just think they're clouds. They look like clouds to some degree. They tricked us. They're tricking us. They're not clouds, they're chemicals. All right. Not one chemical trail all morning. Won't be one all day. But tomorrow, it could be totally the opposite. Same exact weather. Now, you who don't believe in it, tell me how that can happen. You want me to show you exact same weather, same day, and 10s, 20, 30, 40, up to hundreds of chemtrails across my beautiful sky? I've done it for years now. I'll continue to do it, so more and more wake up and stop this. Any chemicals across our skies, and in our grounds, on our grounds. Just stop spraying crap around us. U.S. government and USA people, who's ever responsible for it, stop it. In Jesus' holy name and presence. You who call yourselves wanting to take care of the earth, stop it. Stop trying to do weather modification. It's stupid, ignorant, and evil. It's darkness. I do not wrestle with flesh and blood, but I come against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age. I come against spiritual wickedness in high places in the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth.